Alright, first episode of Perennial Leftist. Let's do it. We're gonna weed this little patch. While I talk about politics. So what I really envision for Perennial Leftist is bringing together two things that I care about a lot, which is discussing politics and gardening. And one of the things I think it's important, like a lot of people during this time wonder what they could do or feel as if there's something they should be doing but they're not. And it's hard to really know where to start, and we're all tired already, so where's the energy even come from? So I think it starts with like finding something that you actually care about and like to do, and that's what mutual aid is about. And I think that's part of it as well. It's not thinking about like what can I do as if like you should be doing something specifically. It's like, what would you like to be doing in particular, and then how can you use that desire to benefit your community and the people around you. So I like to garden, and there's so many ways that you can use that to affect the community and those around you, because gardening just comes with so much abundance. Once you start harvesting squash and things like that, you really quickly begin to realize you can't eat all of it. People start to share. It's actually really beautiful. Like there's just this natural sharing that comes with gardening, and there's also like an acceptance of someone's offer. It's probably like a topic for a different day, but we do live in a society where people don't want to ask for help. And even if they're not asking for help, sometimes, or a lot of times when it's offered, they don't accept it. But when it comes to something like gardening, I just feel, for whatever reason, like people just have there's this understanding, that those nice tomatoes are going to go bad, so I'll take those off your hands, so there's just something really beautiful that comes from sharing and people accepting your offer. That's a lot of times people do offer and people like decline their desire to help. So anyways, kind of switching, this will be like a little disjointed, I suppose, but one of the things that really has prompted me to finally start doing this, I am not going to say what it was, but I have had I did a podcast in the past, back in 2020, and I was really enjoying it, but then I got into protesting, and I just thought it was more important to focus on that. Not to mention, as I started getting into protesting, I wasn't really trying to put my name and face out there. So I kind of stopped, and I never really got back into it, but I have wanted to express my thoughts about politics for a long time. I'm a political science major, so just talking about these things in general is really interesting to me. But I also, it's perennial leftist. Like I am a leftist, and at this current time, like we're on the brink of war with Iran. Like true and utter war, because the United States is Israel. So we're on the brink of things escalating into something much worse, I think, than people really than it is right now, but also like than people imagine. Because if Iran closes down the Strait of Hormuz. Like, what would this war do for the oil industry? And as the United States has continued to invest in oil and turn noses up at ideas of a Green New Deal, and we're falling behind. And if this war that cripples the oil industry, while other countries have been investing in solar and wind and various renewables and high-speed rails and public transportation and this, that, and the other, I just have a lot of wondering about American exceptionalism and the amount of propaganda that we have been and are sold in this country. This is tiny little onion. This was supposed to be an onion patch, but I really let the weeds in here get out of control. But yeah, this idea of American exceptionalism. And when you really want to dig into that, like, what is so exceptional about America? Like, look how much debt we're in as a country and as individuals. And this is the richest country in the world. And what do everyday people, like, really have to show for it? And then that got me thinking, as we use AI and cut corners and costs and stuff, and like we all experience that all the time. These are the same people that are making those decisions and that are making decisions about how the military budget is spent. And it just hit me the other day. Like, yes, we spend the most money of any country on our military budget, but the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in years. What are we actually spending that money on? Like, just because we spend the most on our military budget doesn't exactly mean that we have the best military. And I started to think about all of the actual, like, waste, fraud, and abuse that goes on in our government. And I started to consider, if that is the same thing that's happening in the military, like, we're actually going to be, like, possibly in over our heads. So I started looking into it a little bit further, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was this center-right think tank that essentially argues that we need to, and has been arguing, that we need to increase our military budget because militarily we are falling behind. And the military has done something similar to the way of the rest of the country, where they've invested a lot in high-tech, expensive items and have forgone spending money creating low-tech items. So while we might have these, like, advanced machines and things like that, we do not have the inventory of weapons that is actually needed to engage in prolonged warfare. And some of these articles too, I mean, our warships are from the Reagan times, and a lot of them are set to be retired or are past retirement. And their replacements will not be ready until the year 2030. It's 2025, y'all. So now, if any of those warships that are currently in use end up getting destroyed in some acts of warfare, there's nothing to replace them. So I'm going to do as much research as possible into this, and everything right now I'm just taking with so many grains of salt. Like, there is so much propaganda from the United States, from Israel, from Iran. Like, everywhere has an agenda, which is fair. I'm inclined to literally, like, if Donald Trump says anything, I believe, like, the opposite will happen. So he said 2 weeks to make a decision. I guess I'll expect, like, troops on the ground in Iran tonight. Just kidding, not tonight. But essentially, I mean, you can't trust a single thing that he says. So we'll see what happens. Depending on how far this war goes and how bad inflation gets, not to mention the fact that ICE is going around and criminally rounding up brown people, farm workers being some of them. Like, what's going to happen to our food supply this summer? So, as I kind of finish up this little patch here, I suppose I want to bring it back. It's like, what can we actually do? And for me, I can grow food for my family and my neighbors. And it's something that we might have to be doing, like, truly and utterly. Growing our own food. So, while I will talk about politics a lot because everything's political, I also hope to just discuss what I'm doing in the garden, because we live in a crazy world. Shit's so heavy, and it's kind of nice to come out here and talk about these things while I have dirt on my fingernails. To be able to, you know, look around and see a flower or a bee or a butterfly or smell this tomato. You know, it makes it easier to accept the fact that we live in this complicated world. Like, the complicated world seems unbearable when you're inside of your own mind and you can't escape it, but the complicated world is a little bit easier to understand when you come outside. So, anyways, I think that might be it for this first episode, or whatever the hell I don't really think this was an episode, but I've been squatting this whole time and my legs are tired, so I'm gonna call it Perennial Leftist, y'all. Solidarity.